I wasn't supposed to be on the road that late, not after the day I'd had. Midnight had come and gone, and the only things keeping me awake were the sharp scent of gas station coffee and the low hum of the tires against the blacktop. I was somewhere between towns, the kind of stretch where the world seems paused, no streetlights, no traffic, just me and the double yellow line stretching endlessly ahead. My hands were loose on the wheel, but my mind was tight, coiled up and distracted. I kept replaying everything that had gone wrong that weekend. The canceled plans. The awkward reunion dinner that left me feeling like a ghost in my own life. My friends had moved on, gotten married, started careers with shiny desk setups and holiday cards. I'd barely managed to pay rent this month. So yeah, I was speeding a little. Nothing reckless. Just impatient. I wanted to get home, shut off the world, and sleep for 14 hours. Maybe 15. That's when I saw them. Red and blue lights flashing in my rearview mirror, slicing through the darkness like judgment. *T, I muttered under my breath, easing my foot off the gas. I pulled over onto the gravel shoulder, the tires crunching like they knew what was coming. My heart pounded faster than it should have for someone who hadn't done anything too illegal. Maybe it was the late hour, or maybe it was the way the silence suddenly felt oppressive. I fumbled for my license in the glove compartment, hands slightly shaking. The glow of my dashboard lit up my face, casting long shadows across my cheekbones. I could feel my pulse in my throat. Then I saw him in my side mirror, tall, broad-shouldered, walking toward me with slow, deliberate steps. His flashlight wasn't on, which struck me as strange. Most cops like to blind you with it, let the beam do half the intimidation. But not him. He kept the light low, his silhouette framed in the glow of his patrol car. He approached the driver's side window and leaned down, just enough for me to see the shape of his jaw and the way his uniform hugged his chest like it had been tailored. "License and registration," he said, voice low, steady. I handed them over with an awkward smile. Was I going too fast? He didn't answer right away. He looked at me, really looked at me. Not just the usual glance at my ID and a bored scan of my face. No, his eyes lingered. One brow twitched slightly. His jaw tightened and released like he was deciding something. "I ran your plates," he said, finally breaking the silence. Nothing came up. "Oh, good," I offered, unsure what to say. He leaned his forearm on the top of my open window. His scent hit me. Leather, cologne, a trace of gasoline. Familiar. Masculine. "You've been driving for a while," he added, not really asking a question. I nodded. "Long day." His eyes narrowed just slightly. "Where you headed?" "Home." Another pause. Another long look. He was handsome in that rugged, weathered way, like he belonged on a recruitment poster for some gritty cop drama. Clean-shaven, but with just enough stubble threatening to return. A sharp nose. Deep-set eyes. The kind of face you don't forget once you've seen it at close range. But the thing that caught me most wasn't how he looked. It was how he looked at me. "You're not drunk," he said quietly, almost to himself. "No, sir. Not high. Nope. You nervous?" That made me laugh too quickly. "Is it that obvious?" He tilted his head. "A little." I swallowed hard, unsure whether he was toying with me or genuinely concerned. The silence hung between us again, heavy and strange. He hadn't taken a single step back from the car. Then he said it. Calm, measured, almost casual. "Get in my car." I blinked. "What?" He straightened up, gesturing with his thumb over his shoulder toward the patrol car. "Leave your keys in the ignition. Step out. Come sit in my cruiser." I should have said no. I knew that. But something about the command, the authority in his voice mixed with the curiosity in his stare, it made me hesitate. Not out of fear, but out of some twisted cocktail of nerves and intrigue. I looked up at him again, still quiet, still unreadable. And in my head, a single question pulsed louder than my heartbeat. Is he going to arrest me? Or flirt with me? The silence thickened like fog as he stood by my window, holding my license and registration but barely glancing at them. His eyes kept flicking from the card to my face, then lingering, like he was reading something more than a birth date or address. "Your name's Liam, right?" he said finally, voice smooth, almost conversational. I nodded, surprised. "Yeah, that's me." He looked down again, but not at the papers. His gaze rested on my hands, still clutching the steering wheel, knuckles faintly pale. "You always this tense, Liam?" he asked with a smirk, like he already knew the answer. I forced a laugh. "Only when I'm pulled over by a guy twice my size with a badge and a gun." That got a faint chuckle from him. He stepped back just enough to rest one arm across the roof of my car, his body language casual, almost lazy, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. It wasn't threatening. Not exactly. But it wasn't normal, either. "Where you coming from?" he asked. "Friend's place." He raised a brow. "That all?" "What do you mean, that all?" "You've got the look of a guy who just left something behind. Maybe something that didn't go the way he hoped." I blinked. That one hit closer than I liked. "It was a bad night. That's all." He tilted his head, studying me like I was an unsolved puzzle. "Boyfriend trouble?" I laughed again, a little sharper this time. "What, is that part of the traffic stop protocol now?" "No," he said, grinning. "But it's part of my curiosity." My pulse picked up, not just from nerves, but something else. Something warmer, deeper. "You always ask people this much about their love life?" I asked. "Only when they look like they're about to cry or punch the steering wheel." I turned away, suddenly self-conscious. The tension in my shoulders had started to shift. Less fear, more confusion. More interest than I wanted to admit. He straightened and looked down at the documents in his hand for the first time, just long enough to feign professionalism. Then he handed them back through the window. "I'm not writing you up," he said simply. "Seriously." I blinked. "You're just letting me go?" "Not exactly." He turned, gestured with his thumb. "Step out of the car." I froze. "What?" "Leave your keys. Come with me." "To your cruiser?" He nodded once, unreadable. Every instinct told me this wasn't protocol. But every instinct also told me he wasn't dangerous. Not in the way people think cops can be. No, this was something else. He didn't want to arrest me. He wanted to talk. Or maybe something more. I hesitated, my hand hovering near the ignition. "You can say no," he said like he meant it. But I didn't. I left the keys, opened the door, and stepped out. The night air was crisp against my skin, and everything felt louder. The gravel under my shoes, the soft click of his cruiser unlocking. He opened the passenger door for me. "After you." I slid inside, and he closed the door gently behind me. A moment later, he was in the driver's seat, buckled in, and pulling away from the shoulder. We didn't speak for a while. The police radio crackled faintly in the background, but he turned it down. The world outside the window was mostly empty. Trees, distant fields, the occasional farmhouse with a porch light glowing like a lighthouse in the dark. I glanced at him, trying to read his profile. Strong jaw, focused eyes, hands gripping the wheel like he was still on duty, but his posture had relaxed. "You're not taking me to the station, are you?" I asked quietly. He shook his head. "Nope." "Then where?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he flicked on his turn signal and pulled off the main road onto a smaller lane. The gravel changed under the tires. We passed an old gas station, long closed, then a few dark storefronts. Then I saw it. A single-story roadside motel with a flickering neon sign that read vacancy. The kind of place people rented by the hour, not the night. My breath caught. He pulled into the side lot and parked in the back, away from the main road. The engine hummed as he left it running, fingers tapping against the wheel for a beat before he turned to me. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, meeting my eyes dead on. "You don't owe me anything. But I saw the way you looked at me. And maybe you saw the way I looked at you." My mouth was dry. "What is this? A choice?" He reached for his door handle. "You can say no. I'll take you back to your car, and we'll forget this. And if I say yes?" He paused. "Then we go inside. I pay for the room. And you spend the night not thinking about everything that went wrong today." I didn't speak right away. My heart was racing, but not from panic. I could leave. I could call it in. I could run. But I didn't want to, because something about the way he said it, low, deliberate, like he was inviting me to be seen, made me curious, made me feel wanted. And I hadn't felt that in a long time. "I'll come inside," I said finally. He smiled. Not smug, not lecherous, just relieved. And then he opened the door. I sat in the passenger seat, the engine humming quietly beneath us, the windows fogging slightly from the contrast of warm breath and cool night air. Outside, the motel's neon sign buzzed softly. Half the letters dimmed, but the word vacancy burned bright like a dare. The cop's hands were still on the wheel, his posture calm but alert, like he was waiting for the next move to be mine. But then he spoke, voice low and measured. "I won't give you a ticket," he said, eyes still forward, "if you agree to spend the night with me." I blinked. For a moment I didn't understand. Or maybe I didn't want to understand. I stared at him, trying to catch a smirk or a sign that this was some kind of joke. But his expression was unreadable, serious, but not cold. Focused. Certain. "You're... what?" I asked, voice cracking slightly. He turned his head, met my eyes. "You heard me." My stomach twisted. Anger bubbled up instinctively. So this was the deal all along? Pull someone over, take them somewhere quiet, and proposition them like it's a transaction. He didn't flinch.
No.
This wasn't planned. I didn't know I'd pull you over tonight. I didn't know it'd be you. I stared at him, unsure whether to be offended, scared, or something else entirely. "So what, you're using your badge to get laid?" He let out a quiet breath. "You're free to walk away." I meant what I said. You don't owe me anything. This is a choice. But it's my choice not to write the ticket. And it's yours to say yes or no. I should have stormed out right then. Should have demanded to be taken back to my car and filed a complaint the second I got home. But I didn't move, because under the heat of my anger was a strange, gnawing sensation. Not fear, not even shame. It was curiosity. And damn me, flattery. There was something about the way he looked at me, like he had been waiting for someone like me, like he knew I'd been drifting lately, restless, disconnected. I hated how much that pulled me in. "You do this a lot?" I asked, quieter now. He shook his head. "No, never. But I saw something in you back there. When I pulled you over. You looked lost. Lost people don't need motel rooms with strangers," I muttered. "No," he said. "But they sometimes need to be reminded they're still wanted." The silence that followed was thick. I looked away, my eyes drifting to the motel. It was cheap, anonymous, easy to disappear into. "You're not going to arrest me if I say no?" I asked, testing the waters. "No. I'll take you back to your car. I'll wish you a safe drive. That's it." "And if I say yes?" He paused. "Then I'll show you what I've been thinking about since the second I saw you. What I've wanted. And maybe what you need." His voice wasn't aggressive. It wasn't a command. It was an offer, heavy with suggestion, sure, but wrapped in something surprisingly tender. I should have said no. I knew that, but I didn't, because something in me was starved. Not just for touch, but for attention. For that feeling of being seen, desired, noticed in a way that wasn't passing or casual. "I'm not good at this," I said quietly. He reached across the console, slow and careful, resting his hand just beside mine. "Me neither. But we don't have to be." I looked down at our hands. His fingers were thick, calloused, powerful. My pulse raced, and my throat felt tight. Then, with more courage than I expected from myself, I nodded. "Okay." His shoulders relaxed slightly, as if he'd been holding something back, waiting for that one word. "Okay," he echoed, opening his door. We stepped out into the cool night, gravel crunching underfoot. The parking lot was dim, lit only by a flickering overhead bulb and the red glow of his cruiser's taillights. He walked beside me. Not ahead, not behind, and together, we approached the faded blue door marked Room 12. I could still turn around. I could still say no. But I didn't. As he slid the keycard into the lock and pushed the door open, The smell of cheap soap and old carpet greeted us like an old habit. The room was small, 2 lamps, 1 bed, curtains half drawn. He stepped inside, then turned to me at the threshold. "This is the part where you decide," he said. I looked at him, his steady eyes, his strong jaw, the quiet ache behind his posture, like he was just as afraid of rejection as I was of saying yes. So I stepped inside and let the door close behind me. The door clicked shut behind me, muffling the world outside like we just stepped into a separate reality. The room was small, plain, cream walls, a chipped dresser with a bolted-down mirror, 1 low lamp casting a soft amber glow across the bedspread. It smelled faintly of disinfectant and something floral that couldn't quite mask the years of motel history soaked into the carpet. He didn't speak right away. He just stood there, his back to the door, eyes roaming the room like he was trying to figure out how this would go. Like he hadn't planned beyond the threshold. Neither had I. My heart pounded in my chest as I stood awkwardly near the foot of the bed, unsure where to put my hands or what to say. The silence between us wasn't uncomfortable exactly, but it was thick, charged, like static before a summer storm. Then, without a word, he reached for his belt. The metal clinked softly, a deliberate sound in the quiet room. He didn't make a show of it. There was no smirk, no swagger, just calm hands undoing the buckle, slipping it free, unfastening the top button of his uniform pants. I stiffened, not out of fear, but something closer to anticipation. The movement wasn't aggressive. It was confident, honest. Still, I swallowed hard. "So, this is happening." He looked up at me, really looked at me. "Only if you want it to." I hesitated. My body felt hot and cold all at once, like I was outside of myself watching this unfold. But when I looked at him, his strong arms, the way his chest filled out that tight black undershirt, I didn't want to leave. "I do," I said, voice quieter than I expected. I don't do this. I mean, I haven't. Not like this." "Neither have I," he replied, voice low. "This isn't normal for me either." He sat down on the edge of the bed, hands resting on his thighs, pants now loose at his waist but still on. He looked down for a moment before speaking again. "I was married once," he said, like he was confessing to a crime. "Woman. Sweet. We were young. Thought it'd fix things. And did it?" He shook his head. "No. It just hid them." He looked up again. His eyes were clearer now, sadder. "I've spent my whole damn life pretending," he continued.
Pretending I'm okay.
"Pretending I'm straight. Pretending this badge means I have control over everything when really—" He stopped himself, exhaled hard, rubbed the back of his neck. "I didn't bring you here just for sex," he said finally. "I mean, yeah, I wanted you, from the second I saw you. But more than that, I wanted to stop hiding, even just for one night. I wanted to be seen." That hit me in a way I wasn't prepared for, because I knew that feeling, that ache of invisibility, that quiet longing to be understood, not just touched. I stepped closer, slowly, like approaching a wild animal. "You don't have to pretend tonight," I said softly. He looked up at me again, and this time the hardness in his eyes was gone. What was left was something gentler, open. I reached out and touched the back of his hand. He flinched just slightly, like even now affection felt foreign. But he didn't pull away. He stood again, slow and deliberate, towering over me but not using it. He just looked into my eyes, and then, finally, reached up and cupped the side of my face. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. Not sexual, just intimate. The air between us shifted. The tension softened, thickened, transformed. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to say no. But I didn't. Our lips met, hesitant at first, then firmer. His hands were warm, steady, cradling the back of my neck as if anchoring himself to the moment. I kissed him back, unsure, but wanting. Wanting him, wanting this, wanting to stop feeling like I had to apologize for craving connection. When we pulled apart, we were both breathing harder. "I don't want to rush you," he murmured. "You're not," I said. "I'm just scared I'll ruin it." He smiled, a real one this time. "Same. We undressed slowly, clumsily, like teenagers figuring out how to move without losing the thread between us. There was no role play, no performance. Just skin and breath and nervous laughter. I traced the tattoo on his shoulder, something military, half-faded but still sharp. He kissed my collarbone like it mattered. Like I mattered. By the time we were in the bed, the night had stopped being about lust. It had become something else. Something fragile and warm and real. He held me like he'd never had the chance to hold anyone before. And I let him. The motel sheets were coarse and over-bleached, the kind that smelled faintly of detergent and time. But I hardly noticed them once his hands slid across my back, pulling me closer. He moved slowly, deliberately, not like a man taking what he wanted, but like someone discovering what it meant to be wanted himself. His mouth found mine again in the low amber light, and I felt the hesitation leave both of us in quiet pieces. The weight he carried, the authority I'd seen on the roadside, it all melted into something else. Something soft, something unguarded. He kissed like he was learning, like no one had ever taught him how to be vulnerable. I matched his pace, uncertain at first until the rhythm of him steadied me. His hands didn't just touch. They explored, hesitated, asked. The calluses on his palms scratched gently over my skin, trailing down my chest, pausing at my waist. He paused, looked at me, breathing a little heavier. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah. You?" He nodded back. "I just want to do this right." There was no ego in his voice, no cocky grin or flexed confidence. Just the quiet need of someone who'd waited too long to be held and didn't want to mess it up. We kissed again, deeper this time, and our bodies fit together in a way that didn't feel rushed or rehearsed. It was tender, but full of heat, like we were both trying to say something with touch that neither of us knew how to put into words. His shirt came off, and I caught a glimpse of his body in the dim lamplight. Broad chest, a few scars, a tattoo above his heart. USMC, faded and edged with time. I reached out and brushed my fingers over it. He flinched but didn't pull away. "You served?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah," he said. "Feels like a lifetime ago." I didn't press. The way he said it, I knew he didn't want to go there. Instead, I leaned forward and kissed that same spot, just above the ink. And he exhaled like someone had finally let him breathe. We moved together slowly, like the silence between us had become a language. There were no loud moans, no wild gasps, just breath, skin, and the quiet intimacy of two people finally letting go of everything they'd been holding inside. His hands roamed my back with a reverence that surprised me. He wasn't just touching, he was memorizing, like he didn't want to forget the shape of me, the feeling of being allowed to care. When our bodies finally gave in, it was quiet, beautiful, the kind of release that felt like more than pleasure, felt like recognition. Afterward, we lay tangled in the sheets, our legs brushing, our bodies sticky with sweat. The room had gone quiet except for the hum of the old AC unit rattling in the wall. Neither of us spoke. For a long time, we just lay there, our breathing sinking, the tension between us unraveled completely. I stared at the ceiling, unsure of what came next. Was I supposed to get dressed and sneak out? Was he regretting this? Was I? Then, in the quietest voice I'd heard from him all night, he said, "I've never done this before. Not like this." His voice cracked on the last word. I turned my head and looked at him. His eyes were open, fixed on the ceiling like he couldn't face me fully just yet. But I saw the emotion behind his jaw, the way it tensed, the way his chest rose with a deeper breath. "Not with another guy?" I asked gently. "Not where it meant something," he said. "Not where I let myself feel it." I swallowed hard. My own throat was tight. "Neither have I," I admitted. "Not like this." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and there was something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Not lust, not power, something closer to gratitude. We didn't need to define it. Not yet, maybe not ever. But something had happened in that room, between the roadside tension and the motel sheets. Something real. He reached out, his fingers brushing over my hand, and I let mine slip into his. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. We fell asleep like that, fingers interlocked, bodies bare and warm in the fading lamplight. The kind of sleep that only comes when you've let down every wall. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel in a motel room with a stranger. Safe. The first thing I noticed was the light. It filtered in through the cheap motel curtains in thin golden bands, soft and almost cinematic, warming the corner of the bed like it had been waiting for us to wake up. The second thing I noticed was him, still lying beside me, one arm slung loosely over his stomach, eyes closed, chest rising and falling with the rhythm of deep, dreamless sleep. For a long time I didn't move. I just watched him. In the harsh glare of patrol lights and uniform buttons, he'd been intimidating, dominant, unreadable. But here, in the soft morning quiet, he looked completely different. Younger, almost vulnerable. There were faint lines around his eyes that didn't come from age. They came from stress, from silence, from holding something in too long. I studied the way his lashes curled, the little scar under his jaw I hadn't noticed the night before, the small rise of his Adam's apple as he swallowed unconsciously in his sleep. And then, as if he felt me looking, his eyes fluttered open. For a second, he just blinked at the ceiling, disoriented. Then he turned his head, saw me, and a lazy smile spread across his face. "Hey!" he said, voice raspy with sleep. "Hey!" I echoed, heart thudding just a little. Neither of us reached for clothes. We didn't jump up or try to pretend this hadn't happened. We just laid there, two men who had shared something more than just a night. "You snore," I said with a smirk. "Do not," he grumbled. "You do. A little. Like a bear who's trying not to be a bear." That made him laugh, and it was the kind of laugh that started in his chest. Honest. Unfiltered. God, it sounded good. Eventually, we got up, pulled on wrinkled clothes, and wandered out of the room. The air was still cool but promising warmth later in the day. The world had kept turning while we were wrapped up in each other. We found a vending machine by the office that still took quarters, the kind that gave you tiny, steaming cups of bitter motel coffee. He bought two and handed me one, our fingers brushing again like last night wasn't done with us yet. We sat on the curb outside the room, backs against the wall, sipping the terrible coffee and watching the parking lot come alive with slow-moving travelers and yawning kids piling into minivans. Felt normal, like we'd done this before, like we did this every Sunday morning. "So," I said finally, glancing at him, "you gonna tell me your name now?" He smirked over the rim of his cup. "Nate. Nate," I repeated. Fitting. What's that supposed to mean? "You look like a Nate. Solid. Brooding. The kind of guy who makes people nervous and then tips really well." He chuckled. "I don't know if that's a compliment." "It is." A beat passed. Then another. I could feel something shift in the air. Something unspoken needing to be said. "I didn't pull you over randomly last night," he said, eyes fixed on his coffee. I froze. "What do you mean?" He shifted slightly, looking at me. "I saw you a few weeks ago, speeding near the same stretch of road. I let you off with a warning. You probably don't remember." I blinked. "Wait, that was you?" He nodded. "And you remembered me?" He looked almost sheepish now, like he wasn't sure how I'd take it. "Yeah, you just stuck with me." Part of me was flattered. The other part, a little uneasy. "You've been watching me?" He exhaled, setting his cup down beside him. "Not in a creepy way, I swear. I just saw something in you. The first time I stopped you, you looked like someone who was holding a lot inside. And I got that, because I was too." I stared at him, unsure of what to say. "I'd see you driving by sometimes," he continued, "or parked by that overlook near the hill. Alone. Always alone. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know how. So you pulled me over? I know how it sounds, but it wasn't about the badge. It wasn't about power. I just wanted a reason to talk to you." I looked down at my hands, the flimsy coffee cup now cooling in my grip. I should have felt invaded, watched, but weirdly I didn't, because he wasn't lying. Not about any of it. And I knew that look he saw in me because I'd seen it in him last night. Loneliness. Curiosity. A need that had gone unanswered too long. So what now? I asked. Nate shrugged, a little uncertain. I don't know. I didn't think past this morning. We sat in silence again, the motel sign buzzing behind us. Somewhere in the distance, a bird chirped like it had all the answers we didn't. Finally, I said, "You could have just said hello, you know? Saved us the roadside drama." He laughed. "Yeah. But then we wouldn't have ended up here." I sipped the last of the bitter coffee and looked at him, at the officer who had pulled me over, then pulled back the layers I hadn't even realized I was wearing. And I smiled. "Yeah," I said softly. "Maybe here's exactly where we were supposed to end up." We lingered outside the motel longer than we needed to. Our coffee cups were empty, the morning was already warming, and a family 2 doors down was packing up their SUV with the kind of chaos that only came from small kids and a long road trip ahead. But Nate and I stayed seated against the wall, not saying much, just watching, listening, letting the silence stretch out like we were both hoping it wouldn't end so soon. Eventually, he stood and dusted off the back of his jeans. "I should take you back to your car," he said, his voice quieter than before someone tows it or runs it off the shoulder. I nodded, rising slowly. "Yeah. Guess the real world's still waiting." He looked at me like he didn't want to agree, but he didn't argue either. We walked back to his cruiser, and this time, I got into the passenger seat without hesitation. The door shut with a soft click, and we were off, pulling out of the lot and onto the winding country road that had started everything. The car was quiet for a while, the kind of silence that was comfortable, not strained. But eventually I had to ask, "So, was this just a one-time thing?" He kept his eyes on the road. His grip on the wheel tightened slightly. "I don't know," he admitted. "I didn't plan on any of this. And now that it's happened," he trailed off like he couldn't finish the thought. "Now that it's happened?" I prompted. He exhaled. "Now I can't stop thinking about what it means." I looked out the window at the passing trees, their branches reaching overhead like tangled questions. "You mean, what it means about you?" He nodded. I glanced over at him. "You don't have to label it. Not right now." He gave a faint laugh. "That's the problem, isn't it? I've spent so long avoiding the question, I don't even know where to start." We hit a stretch of road that looked familiar, the trees parting slightly to reveal the place where I'd first pulled over. My car was still there, parked half on the gravel shoulder, untouched and waiting. He slowed the cruiser and pulled in behind it, letting the engine idle. "I'm not proud of how I approached you last night," he said suddenly. "I made it seem like a transaction, like you had to give me something to avoid getting in trouble." I turned to him. "You also gave me an out. Twice. Still, I shouldn't have done it like that." I smiled gently. "Maybe not. But if you just asked me to get coffee, I probably would have ignored you." "Why?" "Because you're a cop, and you're built like a linebacker. And most of the guys I've dated wouldn't know vulnerability if it slapped them in the face." That made him laugh again, more openly this time. I reached into my back pocket, pulled out a pen, and scribbled my number on a gas station receipt from my wallet. I held it out to him. He looked at it, hesitant. "You don't have to call," I said. "But if you ever feel like talking, or seeing me again, or just figuring it out one step at a time, you've got this." He took the slip of paper like it was something fragile, something he hadn't been given before. "I've never dated a guy," he said. "I've never spent the night with a cop." We both smiled. "You don't have to figure it all out right now," I added. "You just have to decide if you want to try." He looked down at the number again, then up at me. There was something softer in his expression, less guarded. "Would it be weird if I asked for a hug?" I blinked. "We had sex. I think a hug is fine." We both laughed, and then he leaned over, wrapping his arms around me. It wasn't brief. It wasn't casual. It was warm and real and grounding in a way I hadn't expected. When we pulled apart, I opened the passenger door, stepping out into the sunlight. I looked back at him one more time, one hand on the roof of the car. You gonna be okay? He nodded slowly. I think I will be. I gave him a two-finger salute, half teasing, and he shook his head with a smile. Then I got into my car, started the engine, and pulled onto the road. As I checked my rearview mirror, I saw his cruiser still idling behind me. He didn't pull away. Not yet. 2 weeks had passed and life had mostly returned to normal. Mostly. I still drove that same back road, though slower now. I still worked my job, still came home to an apartment that was too quiet, still spent more time thinking than doing. But something had shifted. It was subtle, like a window cracked open that had always been painted shut. That morning, I found myself back at the diner I always used to go to before everything changed. The kind of place with sticky menus, waitresses who called you Han, and coffee that tasted like someone had dared it to be bitter. It wasn't anything special, but it was familiar, comforting. I took a corner booth, my favorite one near the window, and ordered the usual black coffee, scrambled eggs, sourdough toast. I pulled a book from my bag, one I'd been meaning to finish for weeks. But even as I read the same sentence over and over, my mind wasn't really in it. I kept thinking about him, about Nate. We hadn't talked since he dropped me off that morning. No calls.
No texts.
Just that crumpled receipt with my number in his wallet, if it was still there. I told myself not to read into it, that it was what it was, a night, an exception, a detour. But every now and then, I'd check my phone and wonder if maybe he was typing and deleting, typing and deleting. The waitress came by with a refill and a gentle smile. You look like you're waiting for someone, she said, pouring. I smiled politely. Just the check, eventually. She moved on and I returned to my book. I had just reached the bottom of the page when I heard the low rumble of tires over gravel. A cruiser pulled into the lot. My heart stuttered. Parked near the front window, same model, same plate. The door opened, and there he was, Nate. Only this time he wasn't in uniform. Dark jeans, a charcoal t-shirt that clung to his chest in the best way, aviators tucked into the collar, and a look on his face like he didn't quite know what he was doing, but had decided to do it anyway. I froze, coffee cup halfway to my lips. He stepped inside, eyes scanning the booths. When he saw me, he didn't smile right away. He just stood there, like the moment needed space to breathe first. Then slowly he walked over. Hey, he said, stopping beside my table. Hey, can I sit? I nodded. Yeah, of course. He slid into the booth across from me. Up close, he looked even better. More relaxed, less armored, like 2 weeks had softened something in him. We sat in silence for a beat, the kind that felt more like a full conversation. Then he glanced around. This place yours? In spirit, I said, smiling. I used to come here all the time. Before me. Before the flashing lights, yeah. He chuckled. I've been thinking about that night. A lot. I figured. Or hoped. He looked down at the table, fingers tracing the edge of the napkin dispenser. I didn't call, he said quietly. Not because I didn't want to. I needed to sit with it. What happened. What it meant. And now. He looked up at me, finally meeting my eyes. Now I want to know if it was just a night, or the beginning of something I've been too afraid to admit I want. My throat tightened. I've been wondering the same thing, I admitted. He smiled then, genuine, unguarded. I don't know how to be out, he said. Not yet. But I know I don't want to go back to hiding. I reached across the table and set my hand over his. He didn't flinch this time. You don't have to have all the answers, I said. You just have to take the next step. He turned his palm and laced his fingers with mine. Outside the window, the sun was higher now, casting golden light across the diner floor. The waitress passed by and paused for a second, glancing at our hands. She smiled, said nothing. Neither did we. Not for a long time. Eventually, he cleared his throat. Do you come here every Saturday? Most. Then maybe I will too, he said. Every Saturday? Until you tell me to stop. I laughed. You're assuming a lot. He grinned. I'm hoping a lot. The moment stretched again, but this time it was warm. Safe, right? And as I watched him across the table, His hand in mine, his walls slowly crumbling. I knew something had changed. Not just in him. In me too. He didn't need flashing lights this time. I would have come willingly. What would you have done if a stranger in uniform offered more than just a warning? If this story made you feel something, curiosity, warmth, even hesitation, hit subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters here. Let's talk about love, risks, and the choices that change everything.